Yo, whew. Look at all that energy, right? No, it's good to be back. I'm Connor Jones. You're now with the Jones. See, channel title. Just messing around. No, I'm not trying to be an overly exuberant YouTuber. I'm just trying to be happy. I'm just trying to enjoy life, and I'm trying to make you enjoy life. Because literally 2.5 years ago, I was in a bed and I was sick and I was actually dying. I remember a couple weeks, a couple nights where I was so sick and I was doing not well at all. But welcome back to the channel. I'm welcoming myself back to the channel. It's good to be back, and I have lots of really awesome content-filled videos for you to see, full of really good information about how I'm recovering, how I'm doing so much better, the steps that I've taken. All my videos in the past, they were kind of like, updates on how I was doing, and I wasn't really giving any recommendations. And not to say that I'm a doctor or anything that I can give recommendations, but I've been through a frickin' lot, and I have felt led by praying to God, by living my life, by watching the people around me, seeing my experience, that it's time to start sharing. So I'm gonna start sharing. I'm really excited about that. Today's video is gonna be super great. Make sure to watch it, because you're already here and you're gonna watch it. Let's roll the intro. Peace. Well, the title of today's video is, I got my pad right here. I don't even know what it's actually titled. 500 days video on an AmpCoil for 500 days. Here's what happened. Something like that. I don't know, but this video is all about my journey, and that's why it's a great video to come back to, because it's going to tell you very generally where I've come from, what's happening right now, and where my body looks like it's progressing, which is super cool. I am wearing the same shirt that I wore in my first video that I ever made 2.5 years ago, when I was feeling so lonely, so afraid, and I just wanted to get a message out to my friends, and I wanted to communicate to them, because humans need to communicate, and I was alone so much. And so I made a video that was 10 minutes long. It got a lot of views, which was really cool. It was like 4,000 or 5,000 views. And so many of my friends, were reaching out to me and saying they were praying for me and for caring for me. And, that meant a lot, so I'm wearing the same shirt. My hair is just as long. If you check back in some of my other videos, I cut my hair, right? And then, it began to grow again, because that's what hair does, right? So whatever. I'm rambling, and I said I was going to give you value. So let's get right into it for sure. Brain block. So I've said that I'm on an AmpCoil for about 500 days now, which is almost 2 years, right? And I probably was sick for even a year before that. So it was back in October of 2016, I believe. So I was living a normal life, and I'll just give you a little bit of backstory. Normal life, I was having a pretty darn good job at Orlando Health in downtown Orlando. I was working for a foundation as a development associate. My job was to motivate good-hearted people with our good-hearted mission, which at the time I thought it was a good-hearted mission. I'm not sure how I feel about Western medicine now. Surgery and such like that, I think, is absolutely amazing and beneficial, but some of the other areas I'm not as certain about, and even lacking in confidence in, but that can be for another video. Anyways, I was working for Orlando Health in downtown Orlando, and I was a normal kid. I played tennis my whole life, 5 days a week, full of energy, and I was dating people, enjoying my life. I was going out to restaurants, playing in an adult dodgeball league, plenty of energy, plenty of living, waking up, everything was great. I went to a rockstone limestone quarry, which is funny enough. It was limestone, and I got Lyme disease there, which is funny. It's just funny. Okay? Just laugh. It's funny. Anyways, I was at the limestone quarry, and we were with like 5 or 6 friends. We should not have been trespassing. I totally regret that. It was not good to go and do that. It's an abandoned piece of property. It's not maintained. And there's a whole nother thing that we can talk about with Lyme disease and ticks and whether the government's trying to maintain it or not, but that's for another day. Again, point is that we were trespassing on property that we should not have been. And I came home with 2 or 3 ticks on me. They were in my left crotch region and on my groin. And I didn't really think anything about it. I just picked them off. I thought it was no big deal. And I went on with my life. Well, over the next 9 months or so, And we ended up figuring out this story afterward because we tried to backtrack and figure out why the heck is Connor getting sick? Why is his heart not working? Why does his head feel dizzy all the time? Why are all his joints hurting? What is going on, right? Why is his left leg going completely numb and he's losing the ability to even use it? We didn't know what had happened in the past. Now I can tell you the whole story. And so anyways, I came back with 3 ticks on me and I just plucked them off. Over the course of about 9 months, my body began to break down. It was actually quite sad and really tragic. I just started to get more and more tired. All of a sudden, I started to have taking naps at work. And then I started to, not be able to wake up on time and be super late every time. I had to go to bed at like 10 or 9 every night and then 8:30. And it eventually got to the point where I could only work half the day. And then I had to have a talk, with my boss and stuff. It's like, I'm not doing well. I don't feel good. And then all of a sudden, I was going to a trip in Chicago for a business meeting. And I was getting in my car at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I felt my whole body drop in blood pressure. I felt really bad on top of this bridge in my car. And I look up in the mirror and I was ghost white. And next thing you know, I passed out completely. And I rolled down the hill and I crashed into a wall. And that was when my body hit its breaking point. The Lyme disease was starting to take over. My body could no longer resist it, it seems, in that moment, that acute moment, right? And, I crashed. It was terrible. And so they took me to the hospital. They tried to figure out what was wrong with me. They did a bunch of blood tests. They tested for everything. They couldn't find it. And at the hospital, when they can't find out what's wrong with you, right, they are going to normally pump you with some antibiotics just in case they miss something, which is actually wise. Antibiotics can actually kill crap. And then your body can recover the damage that it does to your stomach and the damage that it does to your body, but it'll also kill the disease. Well, in some ways, that's what happened. It really suppressed the disease. Whoa, English, come on. So anyways, it really suppressed the disease. They pumped me with Rocephin, right? And some doxycycline. And so they pumped me with Rocephin and doxycycline. I was super dizzy for 2 weeks. I was not feeling well for 2 weeks. I was at home in bed. And they eventually let me out of the hospital 4 or 5 days later after I said I started to feel a little bit better, but I wasn't feeling good enough to drive or anything like that. Super dizzy all the time. And then after about 2 weeks of taking Rocephin and doxycycline, I felt my body click back into action. I was like, whoa, old Connor is back. I feel good. Whatever happened the last 2 or 3 weeks, whatever even happened in the last few months of me being so tired and stuff, I feel a lot better already. It was just like that. Everything changed. And so that was really cool, right? And I was like, I'm going back to work. I'm living. I'm dressing sharp. I'm trying to be a successful young man. And I was also doing 40 hours a week at work. But then on top of that, I was doing 20 hours a week at my church and preaching and teaching and going to Bible studies, etc. So I was living a full life again, even for a month, right? And then all of a sudden, I felt the tiredness start to come back again. Well, it's why? Because I wasn't on antibiotics anymore. And the antibiotics weren't suppressing the disease, right? And so the disease regained its strength and it came back. You see that happen all the time, even with like strep throat or not bronchitis. Bronchitis! Anybody got time for that? But not bronchitis, pneumonia. Like they always tell you to finish your antibiotics, right? And I did finish my antibiotics, but they found out with Lyme, right, that you need to take it for about a month or even a month and a half to really make sure the disease is dead when you catch it in its early stages. So we suppressed it with antibiotics, but we didn't kill it. SOL, right? So anyways, it's all part of God's plan and it's all okay. Everything is part of God's plan. Life is a part of God's plan. Death is a part of God's plan. And it was a part of God's plan that I only took a small portion of antibiotics at the time. So I began to get tireder and tireder again. And over the next 3 months, I was trying to go back to work. I was trying to live a life there, but it just wasn't happening. And so, when I came back from the car crash and everything, my bosses were very lenient. They were kind. They let me work half days and stuff, but they were like, you're a full-time position. What's going on here? And I was like, honestly, I just need to tell you the truth. I don't know what the legalese of the company is and all that, but I can't work full-time. My body can't do it. Well, I started to break down even more. And I had to leave my job, and that was a wise choice because my body wasn't working. And I had to go home. And I was trying to figure out what was going on in my life. I mean, this is developing into a long story. I guess I'm telling the whole story right now, even though this video is supposed to be about AmpCoil. So the whole story then is that I started having tons of pains develop. And I guess this is the story of me telling you about my symptoms, right? All of a sudden my crotch started to hurt super bad. I mean, huge splintering pains, just really terrible, that would make you lose your breath, and I would have to curl up into a ball. All these symptoms started coming about. I started not being able to breathe every day between like 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, which now we know was related to cortisol and DHEA levels in my adrenals. My adrenals were just under super attack from this Lyme disease. And I was a completely healthy kid. You know, we lived on Western medicine, everything was normal, and then all of a sudden my body just starts breaking down a ton, right? And so other symptoms that kept going were like my left leg going super numb. And I have a whole list of these. I used to write them all out because I knew that I was going to share my story one day. And so I have documents and things full of this information, and I'm going to share it all with you in other types of videos. But my symptoms, you can only imagine, started to get so terrible. Obviously, I had the worst brain fog and dizziness, and it was to the point where I couldn't even like look at natural light or talk to anyone. My disease got worse and worse, and we kept searching for different types of doctors. We saw over 10 different doctors, and the Western medicine was interesting for sure. They wanted to prescribe me on antidepressants and all sorts of different things like that. I tried them for 2 weeks. They started making me feel sick. I was like, I don't have a depression issue. I'm one of the most honest people that I've ever met in life, which I'm not trying to praise myself. That's just like what people tell me. And I lay all my brokenness before people. I lay it all before God, and I try to make really good, wise decisions in life, even though I make mistakes like everyone else. I don't have an issue with depression. Not like there's anything wrong with having an issue with depression, but it just wasn't the correct diagnosis. They couldn't find any diseases in me based off of their Western practices, so they assumed that it must be something psychological, and that's just not the case. Nonetheless, I started to get worse and worse. All those symptoms were developing, and we started looking for other types of doctors, natural doctors, now that we had gone through, different, not a kidneyologist, that's not a thing, a urologist, right? Because I had so much pain in my male parts. We went through 2 or 3 cardiologists, right? A neurologist, all these different types of people. And then eventually they referred me to a psychiatrist, obviously. And we felt in our hearts that it was time to move on because we didn't think that that was wise, and we didn't think that the way they were approaching it was intelligent or full of knowledge. And so we moved on to a Lyme disease doctor, and I would not recommend going to that doctor now. Potentially he might be able to heal you if your Lyme disease is early, but he works mainly with antibiotics and intravenous antibiotics and etc. So it was still God's plan for me to go there because this man was full of wisdom. And we sat down, having not known anything about my disease, having been really confused. My mom was in tears. Why is her son sick? Why is her son's body not working, right? And he sits there and he goes through the last 5 years of our lives. And he's like, okay, we're just going to go back 5 years because Connor wasn't sick 5 years ago, right? And we're all like, right. And so he said, okay, what did you do this month? Where were you? You were in college. Okay, what kind of trips did you go on? What did you do? Blah, 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 right? And we went through it all. And eventually we got to the point of 2 things, okay? One, he definitely believed I had Lyme disease. But the 2 sources for that information were the fact that I had gone to a limestone quarry and I found ticks on me. And he said, bingo. He said, how often do you find ticks on you? I was like, never. He's like, that's interesting. He said, where else? I also went to Colorado before I went to college, right? Or before I went to college, after I got home from college. And apparently there's a lot of Rocky Mountain spotted fever there, which is found in nymphoticks, little baby ticks that you can't even see on you. So these people get them on them, and then those ticks stay there for a long time, etc. And there's a lot of reporting of that disease there, which is very similar to Lyme disease, brain fog, dizziness, nervous system shutdown, etc. Right? And, heart symptoms, palpitations, So that was my story up until that point, is that Dr. Kalidas, I guess I said his name. Maybe I'll edit it out. I don't know. He figured out what was going on with me, and that was amazing. And that was wonderful. That brought us a lot of peace. But the way he works is with long-term antibiotics. Now, a lot of people have shown relief from that. I'm not confident that it's the best way to treat Lyme disease at all, because long-term antibiotics does a lot of damage to your natural bacteria in your body as well. And I suffered from that for sure because I did a year and a half of intravenous antibiotics in my arm, right? 3 times a week of Recefin and a couple other ones as well, I think. And then I did a bunch of oral antibiotics at the same time too. And so that was a really tough season because I was trusting someone else that I thought knew what was going on, but I was watching my body not really get better at all. It was actually just slowly getting worse now. It wasn't getting as worse as fast. It was just slowly getting worse. Well, then to continue my story, okay, I was not really sure what was wrong with my body yet. I was still super tired a lot, but I still wanted to live. So I was still preaching. I was still going to the church sometimes, working when I could, but I was so dizzy in the car. I was even so dizzy on stage. I was just trying to survive. I didn't know that this was a thing that was affecting my energy as well, that it was something that could get to the point of putting you in bed for months. And eventually I got so tired that I would have to stop preaching in the middle of preaching. That happened one time, and I had to go lay down, and it was really dramatic. And everyone's like, is Connor okay? What's going on with Connor? And so at that point, I realized that I was getting worse and worse and worse, and I needed to make a change again, that the antibiotics weren't working. I don't want to leave this part of the story out, but one significant thing was a super sinful moment that I had. It was a really tragic, sinful moment. And I just wanted to live. I just wanted to get out. I was tired of being in my room all the time. I went and played volleyball. And I played volleyball, and the first game went okay. My body had enough energy stored to survive, but I started to get really dizzy, and I even started to black out a little bit. But I was so stubborn, and I was so sinful, and I was so tired of being locked in my room, and I was just mad at God. So I was like, God, I'm going to keep playing volleyball. So I kept playing, and I felt the dizziness, and I felt my adrenals just really, really stressed and really not thankful for what I was doing. And so then I continued to play even though through it. And I remember feeling the Holy Spirit in my chest saying, stop, and my body, which is a physical thing that God made. So it's all from God, whether it's the spirit or the physical communicating to you, just telling me to stop. What are you doing? You're harming us. It's like my body was talking to me like, you're hurting me, and even, you're hurting yourself, Connor, but whose voice is that? Because it's myself talking to myself. So it's like sometimes I view my body as something separate than my mind. And so my body was like, stop hurting me. And eventually I got so sick that day, I went home, I laid in bed, and that's when tragedy truly took its roots and things began to progress towards rock bottom. I didn't get out of bed for 2 to 3 months after that. I couldn't look at any light. I couldn't even talk to my parents. I would say any words, and my chemicals in my body, my adrenals, they weren't present to even talk to people. My dad would just bring in my food. My body started to not even be able to walk. I lost touch with my left leg. And my dad would literally have to carry me to the bathroom because otherwise I would pass out on the way. And it was super risky. And it was so sad. It was so tragic even. I even had to start using the restroom in my bed. And I could feel my heart getting worse and skipping beats. And I could feel poundings and throbbings throughout my body. And for the first time ever in my life, I laid in bed one night and I actually felt that my body was not even fighting anymore, that it was dying. I really felt the true feelings of death, and I could feel it on my neck. I could feel it in my heart, and I knew that there was a chance that I might not wake up the next morning. And that night I passed out multiple times and woke up. It was a very scary night. But I also wasn't fully scared because I knew how good, I mixed the word good and God, but now I'm making a funny into something that's so serious. But I knew that God was with me. I didn't know if it was guaranteed that I was going to live, but I knew that he was good and that his love was based off of forgiveness and it wasn't based off of performance. And so any sins that I had committed, they weren't the things that were going to keep me from heaven or get me into heaven. But it was just his will and his mercy that was going to decide what was going to happen to me in my life. And so I rested in that, whether I lived 85 years or whether I lived up into that moment and passed away right there. And that was really a precious, precious moment. And it was truly rock bottom. And it's where I began to build towards AmpCoil and towards the 7 or 8 other things that I'm doing now in my life. So I hit rock bottom, and that was crazy, right? To actually be in bed and to know that your body is dying. But then that's where the hope comes in, right? That's where I start to search for different things. So we're going to be telling this whole story right now. I thought this video was about AmpCoil, but I decided that in my brain that unless you heard the whole entire story, it didn't mean as much as to what AmpCoil is doing for me now, right? And what ultimately God is doing for me now through the 7 or 8 things that I'm doing. But one of the main things that's helping me is AmpCoil. And one of the main things that got me to this stable point so that I could pursue these other things is AmpCoil. And so I was so sick, I was dying that night, and I told my dad, crying in his arms, I said, "Dad, I'm dying, and I feel it." And he just held me, and he said, "I know that you're not going to die." And I said, "How do you know?" And he said, "I just know." And I said, "Me too. I don't think I'm going to die." I was like, "But we need to pursue stuff. We need to start running after other things." Sorry if I keep glancing off at the side sometimes. I have my screen right there, and it's really distracting, because I'm a very prideful person, and I like looking at myself. No, that's a joke. That's not true. But it's just the movement off to the left. Anyways, you don't want to hear about that. You don't want to hear about production. You want to hear about the real thing. So I was crying with my dad. We told each other the truth. We told each other that we thought I was going to live. We prayed to God multiple times. He was the man who carried me to the bathroom. Honestly, Dad, thank you so much. I love you. He was the man who took care of me so much. My mom was out working her frickin' buns off as a real estate agent to make sure that we had enough money for all of our family to survive. She's a frickin' saint. She's a hard worker, and bless her and bless her soul for everything that she has done. My sisters, now we're just thanking everybody. My sisters were making me food so often, bringing it into my room quietly. They dealt with all my just stress and my anger that I was going through as I was trying to get people to help me, even though they had no requirement to help me. I knew I needed help in order to survive, and they just kept giving and giving and giving of themselves. Caitlin and Kendall, I love you. Seriously, love you so much. Thank you, girls. I'm going to kiss the camera. Yeah, I love all my family so much and all my friends that came over to visit, and I can make a whole nother video about all those things. But we're here to focus on the story. So, trying to figure out where we left off. So I was with my dad, and we decided that we needed to make a change for sure. And I decided to take a risk in that moment to stop doing all the antibiotics because I knew that I was just getting worse. So I knew there was no way they were helping probably. Maybe they were keeping death from coming quicker. Who knows? But I decided to take that risk. In life, you have to take risks. And I know that for a lot of people, that's a very scary risk to take. But I decided to move away from Western medicine and to devote my attentions elsewhere. And I felt peace about that. So I decided to get off all the antibiotics. I decided to start heeding the information about food and health and all these different types of things. I started consuming only localized organic food. So food that was from my region where I was living right now, and food that was completely organic. I call it being grown God's way. So growing things the way they've been grown for thousands of years. A lot of people refer to that food terminology as heirloom foods. And I have so much information that I want to share you guys. And I got to stop because otherwise every video is going to be an hour long. I got to learn how to package it into 15 minutes. Nonetheless, we were looking around for different things. I can tell you about all the different things that I did. And we decided to, oh my gosh, I heard about AmpCoil. How did I hear about it? Where did I hear about it? I can't even literally remember right now how I actually heard about AmpCoil. This is crazy. I can tell you how I went though. So I heard about AmpCoil somehow, some way. I started researching it and looking into it, reading a lot, blah, 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 blah. And then I called the company and I wanted to ask them questions about it. So I called them, I asked them my questions, and they said the best way to know if it's right for you or not is to go experience it. So I said, how do I experience it? They said, go to this guy here in Orlando. He has one and you can pay him for sessions, right? So I went to see him, okay? And I paid him for sessions and we started using it, for 30 minutes or an hour every time. And my dad would actually, he would carry me to the car, kind of hold my arms and everything like that. And it was tough. It was tough to make the trip, but it was worth it because we were pursuing something else. So I was eating healthy food. I got over to that guy's house and I started using AmpCoil. And during the first week, we started to notice that I was feeling a little bit better. I was feeling a little more stable in my body. It's not like I was getting out of bed or anything, but I wasn't having these like crazy breathing breakdowns, and everything was a little bit more manageable, and it was interesting to see me stabilize a bit. But we didn't know what it was. Maybe I was just on an uptick. Maybe I was doing kind of okay that week, and then my body was going to keep going down. So we go the second week. We go 3 times for that week too. 3 times the first week, 3 times the second week. We're like, wow, that was really good. Third week, we start to get a little busy, so we don't get to go as often. We maybe only go once. But then the fourth week, I'm like, Dad, we need to decide if this is working or not, and I think it is, And he goes, I think it is too. And so we go for the fourth week, and we were a little intimidated. We wanted it to work because we wanted, my parents wanted their son to heal, and I wanted to heal, right? And I wanted to not have to deal with bodily breaking down every day and potentially dying, right? But at the same time, it costs $8,000. And so we were like a little intimidated by that. Who wants to spend $8,000 and it doesn't work, right? And so we go on the fourth week, and we go for 3 times that week, and there was a huge shift. I felt it in my brain. I felt it in my nervous system. I felt it in my back. My body was beginning to actually heal. And it was pretty miraculous, and it was amazing. And I knew it, and my dad could see it in my eyes. He couldn't feel it as much, but he knew, right? He knew. He's like, Connor believes that he's getting better. And that's really important. And so then we made the decision to buy one. And it came 2 weeks later, and I said to Dad, I was like, Dad, since this is healing my body, there's no reason to stop going to see the guy in Orlando who has one. And so let's keep going while we're waiting for the machine to come in. And so my dad was very gracious. My parents were very gracious. They continued to shell out that money so I could go see that man. And I kept healing with that man for about 2 weeks. And then my AmpCoil came to the house, which was an awesome, awesome day. It was super fun. I actually filmed me opening it, and I never released that video because it was weird and it just wasn't done well. And that's okay. It's no big deal, right? Maybe I'll release it sometime just for kicks, But anyways, the point is that I got the AmpCoil to my house, okay? And I'm going to just go by memory and say all these things. Real quick, let me look over my list. So I was talking about symptoms, going to see that guy for the coil. His name is Dan. He's a cool guy. I'm very thankful for him. Using it regularly, general detox steps. Yep, that's exactly where I thought we were going with this. And so AmpCoil recommended that I obviously start on organs and nutrition, okay, which if you don't understand what those things are just general frequencies that your body receives well. They open you up, and they allow you to absorb nutrition more efficiently, and they allow your organs to communicate more accurately and comfortably in the way that they would if they were healthy. It's a whole lot to explain. If you're watching this because you're confused about AmpCoil, again, the best way to know is to just experience it, to actually go and use it, because I'm not a crazy scientist, so I don't know how these actual things work, but I can show you a couple videos and things from other people that aren't even affiliated with AmpCoil, that are scientists who talk about sound technology and how the body communicates through sound. It's really, really amazing. So the anatomy of it all, the way that God designed the earth with electrons and neutrons and protons, and how if something is moving and you can affect its movement, if it's getting sick, it starts to move slower. It's very, very interesting stuff for sure, right? And so anyways, I started to use the AmpCoil consistently in my life, and I actually was coiling every day. They say that you shouldn't, but I was coiling every day. And so I was doing organs and nutrition, and I was not doing any cleanses. Cleanses are frequencies that are played at such a wavelength that they literally are so bothersome at an animatonic level to certain bacteria that they burst the bacteria. It's completely amazing. You can watch people experiment with this under microscopes. It's astounding. But it's a resonant frequency. Everything has a resonant frequency, just like glass has a resonant frequency. And when an opera singer sings at a certain pitch, right, she can break the glass. Or if you play a certain pitch out of a sound system, you can disrupt certain things that are made of specific matter as long as you get the specific frequency. If that's kind of complicated to you, you can learn it, you can understand it, just look into it. Plenty of third-party videos as well as AmpCoil videos. But the point is that I wasn't doing any cleanse frequencies yet. Now, the general detox steps start to do cleanses, right? They're ticklings towards cleanses. They're general detox. They generally sweep across the body and take care of the way AmpCoil talks about it. It's like if you were dealing with a foreclosed home, there would be tons of grass and stuff growing up from bad maintenance, just like a sick body. And at first you're going to have to take a weed whacker. You can't even take a lawnmower, and you're just going to have to cut off these huge top layers. Otherwise you're going to jam the system. Well, the system, right, is the lawnmower in this case, but the system is also your detox pathways of your body, right? Your kidneys, your liver, your colon, right? All these things that deal with toxicity. If you take a super sick person and you kill all the crap in them, then these different parts of the body are going to be overloaded with toxins, and you're going to see a huge decrease in energy. You're going to see a huge decrease in even functionality. Why? Because now the body's devoting all its energy and all its effort towards detoxing you. And so that's what you call a Herxheimer reaction or a Herx reaction, when your body's detox pathways are completely overloaded by how much you have killed. Okay? So now that you've kind of understood some of those things, and maybe for the first time those are explained properly, I started to do the general detox steps. I went through them. There's 30 different steps. You don't have to do them in 30 days. For me, my body was super weak. It took me 3 months to get through them all. Why? Because I would herx so bad after many of them. And so sometimes they told you if you herxed really bad on one, then that meant that there was a lot of that crap in your body, right, that you just eliminated or at least killed, and now your body needed to get rid of. So maybe you should do that general detox step multiple times, right? Up to 4 times even. And so anyways, I was running those journeys. I was running organs to support, what my body was trying to process, but I was just slowly getting better. It was amazing. There was about 4 or 5 different journeys that made me really hurt super bad. I'm talking about I was normal. I was living my life. I was kind of walking around the kitchen a little bit, being able to survive, go to the bathroom on my own again, starting to get some stability. My dad wasn't having to take care of me as much. I didn't have to go to the bathroom in my own bed, right? These are really, really great progressional things. But then I would herx really bad because of one of the general detox steps, and I'd be in bed for maybe 10 to 15 to even 20 days. It was crazy. But then my body would process through those toxins, I would move on, and I'd be okay. And it was great. And we saw this gentle, continuing to get better. It'd be like 4 or 5 steps forward, and then 3 to 4 steps back, right? Whenever I would herx. But I got through the general detox steps, and it was amazing. And I started to get better and better and better, and it was wonderful. But I still couldn't leave my house, and I still wasn't seeing my friends, and so I began to make videos in my home about my recovery. You can go watch all those videos, and you can watch how I progressionally got better and what I said and what I talked about, and I think that's amazing that those videos are there for that. But let's wrap this up, because it's about 500 days of AmpCoil. It's about how sick I was, the fact that I was stuck in bed. Now I started doing organs, then I started doing general detox, and now I'm doing what's called cleanses, which are specific frequencies that are tested over time. They literally sit there with a really cool electromagnetic amplifier, and they're sitting there watching these things under a microscope, testing the frequencies, and watching these things get really uncomfortable, okay, and start to shake when certain frequencies are played directly at them. Okay, it's really, really amazing. You need to look into it. And if you're wondering why Western culture hasn't embraced this, there's a whole debate about that. There's a whole talk about money. It really just surrounds money, okay? It really just surrounds the pharmaceutical industry and money and a group of people who want to be very successful. But nonetheless, and so they suppress other things. But we don't need to get into all that. You just need to focus on what's true for you, the journey that you're on, and what you're searching for, okay? So I've had a coil for 2 years. I can attest to its value. My friends around me in my life can attest to its value. Even many of them have used it. One of my healthy friends who's a coder at Disney, he started using it. He's a super healthy guy. He started using the brain reboot, and he was like, dude, this thing works. He's like, I was wired till 4 a.m. last night. It just cracks me up. So he's continuing to use it, and it's really enjoyable. But the point is I started doing cleanses, and I started having major herxes as well. But I started getting a lot better. I started going to Bible study again, being able to leave my house. I started walking around on my own. My left leg numbness started to go away. Literally, I don't even have any crotch pains anymore. I have no pains in my male parts like I was used to, having these crazy, crazy, terrible pains that would make me curl up into a ball for, 40 minutes to 2 hours on my bed, and I couldn't move. And I don't even know what that is to that day. I don't know why that even happened. And I even went to the hospital one time. It was so bad because we thought I may have had, testicle torsion, which is where the male testicles cross over on each other. I know you don't want to imagine that, okay? But this is a medical video. We're just talking about my medical life. So it's okay to talk about things like that, okay? But I thought that it was so painful that maybe I had a testicle torsion. And they looked at, this Jewish doctor looked at my scrotum, I guess I need to use a medical term, and he was just like, sorry to be graphic, these are the most normal balls I've ever seen. It was really funny. But anyways, the point is that I've been coiling now for 2 years. I am so much better. I'm leaving the house. I'm driving around sometimes. I can, have the energy to drive 5 to 10 minutes. And now I'm doing a whole lot of other things that I would love to tell you about, but there's just not enough time. This video is already going to be either 2 20-minute parts or 40 minutes. But the point is that AmpCoil is working, and it's so wonderful, and it's a blessing in my life. I don't hurt as bad at all now. My body can really deal with the detoxing. The organs have been strengthened. The detox pathways have been strengthened, and now it can handle even more killing. It can handle massage. It can handle going to an acupuncturist. It can handle going out and having fun, going on dates, walking around a whole shopping mall, walking for, thousands of feet now, multiple times a week. And my body is truly, truly recovering, and it's really hitting an exponential up curve. I need to draw it this way, actually, I could tell, because I'm looking off to the side, but it's really just, I was slowly improving, and now it's starting to be exponential and really shoot up, and I'm about right here, and I can totally feel it, and you might hear my dog in my background, but I don't want to go on any longer. I hope you've had joy. I hope that you've, seen how much strength has come from this, and how I can literally talk for 40 minutes, and sometimes in my old videos, I couldn't even talk for 3 minutes, but now I can talk for 40 minutes. This gives me courage and strength that I can go back to church probably and start preaching again and telling people about this journey and telling people about how I continue to trust God through it all. And I still sin, I still make mistakes, but I'm continuing to walk in obedience. Though a righteous man may fall 7 times, he will rise again. I even want to say thanks to God in this. I mean, I'm praying to him. I'm not praying to you or anything. But God, thank you so much for healing me, and I appreciate you. And I'm praying to you. I'm not praying to this black circle. And thanks for walking me through all this. So I appreciate you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. So all that being said, if you liked this video and you enjoy my stuff, make sure you leave a like on this video. Scroll down, turn your phone on your side if you have to, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe if you're enjoying this type of content, because that way you get to see more. And definitely, if you really like what I'm doing, if you like the honesty, if you like the stories, hit the bell. I have way more videos coming. The bell allows you to always know when the videos come out straight away. And so, that's what I got. That's what I got. I have a video coming about the food that I eat. I have a video about the acupuncturist and the Chinese medical doctor that I started seeing 6 weeks ago, and how he is reviving my adrenals, and it's amazing. I'll have a video about the masseuse that I'm seeing, who used to be the lead masseuse for an NBA basketball team. She's phenomenal. She's healing parts of my body that I didn't even know needed healing. There was so much trauma there. Lots of videos coming. Here's a big old banger 40-minute video. I hope it brought you value. I hope that you look up AmpCoil. I hope that you ask me questions in the comments. And if you end up deciding to buy one, I hope that you tell them that my video helped you make the decision. Because they do offer us some compensation for referring people, but that's not what I'm about here. I didn't want to make these kinds of videos and truly endorse AmpCoil until I was fully confident in it. I've been using it for 2 years, and it is the real deal. 500 days on an AmpCoil has started to heal my body, and I'm very grateful for all those men and women at that company. I'll see you in the next one. You just watched another video with the Jones. Peace out. Blessings to you.